Organisations are networks of systems and employees. Where the data flows are not coded in systems for efficiency, employees fill the gaps utilising many tools for communication and organising work. These tools are often unstructured email and chat and snapshot point-in-time office documents to report information. These tools have created overload, high costs due to inefficiencies and duplication, and delays in decision making. This video presents Nodlin, which transforms everyday communication into a living computable knowledge graph, where ideas, data and decisions stay connected, reactive and explainable across teams and systems. We present a detailed view of the communication issues, how organisations are currently tackling these issues, and present Nodlin as a tool to resolve these. We demonstrate the capabilities of Nodlin and show a variety of different use cases where it can be applied. An organisation can be visualised as a network of systems, applications that execute the transactions of the business and perform accounting and HR, etc., and employees that are really the glue for the organisation, that use the applications, configure the applications, and handle the edge cases. Applications may also be in place to support the work that people are doing, and these may be things like spreadsheets and documents, etc. Now, assuming your organisation is all working to the same goal and objective, there will be relationships between all of these different data points. The organisation will have goals and objectives. Employees will be expected to be working towards these objectives, creating requirements, projects and tasks to execute. The teams will be working to budgets and resources, and these will be represented in the HR system and the organisational plans. Now the question here is, given all these relationships between these data points, are they all maintained? Are they all up to date and consistent? And do you want them to be? Here we have grouped these data points into a variety of systems that may be responsible for handling these different data points. So the goals and objectives may be in Word or PowerPoints. The projects and tasks may be in Jira with attached requirement documents, and the incidents and risks may be in some production management system. These may be great tools, but we are left with a number of problems. We're left with the problem of how to maintain consistency between these systems. And if we connect these systems, how long does it take for those updates to take effect and become visible? Is it a manual process, and how do we avoid the inconsistencies and errors? In some cases, the tools may represent the same information in a different perspective. For example, a risk may be open in the production management system, but the task to resolve the risk is complete in Jira. Technology provides a number of mechanisms to deal with this. We could just live with the inconsistencies. This, however, may have a cost to the business if decisions are made on inaccurate information or the status is not transparent. Secondly, you can adopt or upgrade software to handle a wider scope of the problem. The successful software we use tends to add capabilities over time, providing more features to encompass a wider capability. And we've seen this in products like Jira. It started as a bug tracker and issue management, but now does Gantt charts, roadmaps, teams, forms, etc. Now this helps with the consistency of the data points it manages, but where does this end, and how do we deal with the overlapping data points with other systems? And ultimately, we're always going to be left with a boundary to the application that we will have to deal with. The third option is to build or utilise integrations between software applications. Now this can be done in real time by sending updates between systems or doing batch updates at specific periods to bring the systems back into line. This can be expensive if the integrations do not exist. Option 4 is where the employee is involved. Now, an employee may transcribe detail between systems or cut and paste the detail. They may also have import and export options between the systems. This is a high cost and still leaves us with a lag between the updates. The ultimate catch-all for all our communication needs are the unstructured tools, which provide as much flexibility as we require. We have email and chat and a number of office tools to share detail across the organisation. But there are some big issues in using these tools. Email and chat catch-alls do not provide context. Employees can receive a lot of emails to support workflow tasks and requests to action something and to share information. They're poor knowledge management tools. Chat can also become overwhelming, representing a stream of consciousness that can be difficult to interpret actions for yourself and to find the latest detail to support your work. Documents must be understood to be a snapshot at a point in time. Any information that's put in a document is then left to go stale. If you are translating summary status up various levels of the organisation, for example, then there's considerable delay and cost in each one of those steps. In addition, there are a host of techniques to support structured communication, like SWOT analysis, 5 whys, RACI, objective hierarchies, and many tools exist to support these structured methods of communication, although many of these are drawing and sketching tools. So how can we utilise these structured methods and integrate them into our communication workflows? These techniques like SWOT and objective analysis all relate concepts and data points in our workflows, and we require a live interactive communication style that relates these to tasks, workflows and other data points across the organisation. What we need is a tool to transform our everyday communication into a living, computable knowledge graph where ideas, data and decisions stay connected, reactive and explainable across teams and systems. And this is what Nodlin aims to achieve. In this simple example, we've got multiple groups across the business. We've got the senior leadership, who are setting the objectives for the business. We've got the sales organisation, who are managing and estimating opportunities. And we've got the HR team, who are focused on looking specifically at employee costs. So starting with the senior leadership, they're responsible for creating the strategy and objectives for the organisation. Many frameworks exist to help formalise these objectives, like the MECI framework from McKinsey, the Objective Cascade, the OKRs from Google. We implemented a simple objective hierarchy in Nodlin with KPIs, and that's what is shown here. Here we've identified a top-level objective to increase revenue, and we've created 3 sub-objectives under this to achieve it. One is to increase sales, one is to reduce costs, and one is to expand markets. Now let's look at the sales side in more detail. We've got an objective to increase sales in order to increase revenue. Here you can see that we've got a KPI currently associated with this sales objective of 31. Now that's a measure of how well we are meeting the objective. 0 being low, 100 meaning we're meeting the objective. In order to perform that calculation, we need 3 values. We need a starting value, a target value, and what we're currently achieving. The starting value happens to be the last quarter's revenue. We want to increase that by a certain percentage. Here we've got it defined as 20, and that's just a simple value. And we've got the current value, which is the opportunities that we've currently got open in the quarter for revenue. Our starting value is based upon a value from another node that happens to be a record of our quarterly sales. Now this is a special type of node. In Nodlin, you can associate files with any node, and it can be any type of file. But this particular node type can interpret spreadsheets and read out the values from that spreadsheet of any named cells. So here, for example, you can see we've got a sales record, and we can open and edit this in OnlyOffice. It can be a normal Excel spreadsheet that you've attached, but in this particular case, OnlyOffice can be integrated with Nodlin. Here you can see our last quarterly sales value for Q3 in 2025 is $550,000. If we look at Nodlin, we can see that we've got that value represented. You can see that we've read the value from that node by applying a particular expression to read out the quarterly sales in Q3. If I go back to the spreadsheet and I was to update this value, say we didn't make 550,000 but we made 540,000, and I was to save this spreadsheet, going back into Nodlin, this should be reflected. This you can see is updated the quarterly sales target, which in turn has updated the sales, which in turn has updated our revenue objective. The current sales figures are derived from another type of node, the opportunity summary. Here we show the global Acme sales figures, and this you can see has been summarised from the regional EMEA and the APAC sales figures. A key feature of Nodlin is that the node is independent and can exist in many Nodlins. When a node is selected, you will see at the top the other Nodlins in which that particular node is present, here shown in purple. The blue Nodlins that are referenced up here show the wider context from all nodes that exist in this Nodlin. So there may be some Nodlin that you want to transition to from here. So it enables you to walk the context of what you are looking at. If we select EMEA sales, we can drill down into that Nodlin, which provides more detail on how the EMEA sales figures are derived. These nodes are all reactive, so if we create another opportunity, we should see this reflected across these other different perspectives. So looking back at our higher level objectives, you can see we've got 7 opportunities with a total global sales figure of 584,000. If I create a new opportunity from here, let's call this one government defence, and give it an expected value of 50,000, and I expect this to close, say, on the 28th of this month. The EMEA sales figure has updated to 484, global total has updated to 609. I go and look at the total objectives, and you can see these figures have also changed here. The number of opportunities has gone up to 8. Now I've increased the KPI that I've calculated for sales to 64. So you can see here the reactive nature across many different aspects of the business that all happen in real time. No one has to go and manually update or send emails on the progress that's being made. At this point, I want to take a little detour here to help clarify a point, and it's a little technical, but I think it will help clarify the utility of Nodlin. You may be looking at this opportunity and thinking that some key detail is missing from the form. This node, however, is not one of Nodlin's features. Nodlin just helps you in defining this node. Now, say we wanted the opportunity to include a status of the opportunity, and like whether it was won, lost, or on hold. This opportunity node is a small Python script where you can define what information we need to capture, what the form looks like, and what the node image looks like, and any calculations or logic that you want to apply. In this simple code, you can reference any detail in any of the connected nodes. You can also perform actions like creating other nodes. Now let's add this new status feature. Say we want it to be either won, lost, or on hold. First, we might want to add a default for the status. Then we want to add a new field on the display where the users can select this status. Here in the script is where we have created the form, and we want to add this new field under the client name. So here you can see we've added a radio group with won, lost, and on hold. If I save this, you can see it's immediately reflected on the form. And you can change this and save it. Now we haven't done anything with this information, but say we want to add this status to the heading in the form, just after the sales opportunity. Here you can now see we've got this status included in the title. And if we change the status of the opportunity, you can see it changes. Now we have not defined any other specific behaviour based on this value, but if you have selected the opportunity as lost, then you may want to set the confidence of winning this opportunity to 0. Now you wouldn't normally be making these changes live when in normal use for something that a lot of people make use of. Note that although you may see many opportunity nodes, there is only one script. In this example I'm making changes to the live script, and if I was to create another opportunity, these changes are being applied. And you can see on this new form, we've got the status in the title and the status options available to the user. Nodlin handles the security around this for groups and individuals to make changes to specific types of node. And you can save different versions, view any execution details, see your history, and publish them for other employees to use. Developing nodes to support your context is not overly complex, and the big advantage is that users who know Python can specialise these for your needs. In fact, the new Microsoft Excel now supports Python scripting in cells, although I would argue that this is not as transparent as Nodlin. Recent literature has stated that around 94% of spreadsheets used in decision-making have faults, and there have been some very significant losses recorded from defects. Now, whether or not this figure is accurate, complex spreadsheets can be difficult to visualise how they work and to test these. Nodlin Python scripts are actually more clear and easier to understand and test than complex spreadsheet with logic hidden in cells. Nodlin makes it easy to develop and share these scripts, and these can easily be reused across your organisation. Now back to the working example. Now let's go and look at the other objective to reduce costs. Here we've got an initiative associated with reducing costs which has been given to HR. And you can see from selecting this that there's another Nodlin that has more detail associated with this. So let's go and look at that. In this Nodlin, you can see that we've got a particular target of reducing employee costs by 15%. And both the target, the current, and the savings are all currently recorded in the spreadsheet. Now this works the same as we just saw with the objectives. So I can open up this spreadsheet and you can see here we've got the labour costs by region and some savings based upon some percentage reduction. So our savings at the moment are 1.4 million. Looking at Nodlin, you can see we've got that represented here with this expression. And again, like the sales objectives, these are all reactive. So if I change that to a 10% saving, I'm now only saving $1.3 million. I save it, and on the Nodlin, that should be reflected and updated there. So my KPI now is only reflecting 67, so it's gone down a little. With the initiative, you can see here I've broken it down into another couple of requirements to look at physical location costs and looking at labour costs. And the labour costs I've associated a sequence of tasks. One is to collate the current regional employee costs, another one to identify the geopolitical risks, then compare and contrast, produce some recommendations, and I've got it associated with a milestone at the end, which I can reflect on some management Nodlin. Nodlin can be used to track your work and assign work to others. If you look at this particular node, collate current regional employee costs, I've got it associated with myself, and you can make assignments to others. You can go and look at your action board, and you can select these like you do in Nodlin. On the right hand side you will see the details of that action, how many people it's been associated with. And you can use this to drive your daily work. If I select that action, I can see which Nodlins that node is present, select that, and it will take me and show me the node where I've got work currently outstanding. And I can complete that, and the next task becomes active, and so on and so forth. If others have got tasks, then they can pick them up. So you don't need to exchange emails with spreadsheets and lists of to-do. You can do it all through one interface. So this shows you how you can take a starting point of the objectives of the business and drill down into the actual initiatives that are ongoing in the business to achieve those objectives, to your actual daily workflow and tasks that are outstanding. So it enables you to get that transparency of the overall objective that you're working to, and for the senior leaders of the business to better view progress on that work and get real-time updates as progress is made. So far we've just viewed information in a graph, but Nodlin has other perspectives. If you select from the top, you can see we support infographics, boards like Kanban boards, where you can have status for columns, Gantt charts, and Excalibur if you want a free format drawing. Now, as noted previously, nodes can exist on multiple Nodlins, and we can see here that some nodes have been identified as important to discuss at a management review, and you can see here that there's a management review Nodlin. Here we've decided to view it as an infographic. And here we've laid out key nodes for discussion. You can view the text, or the image and the text, and you can lay these out how you like. Here we can see the sales summaries on the left-hand side with the KPI, the number of opportunities we have, and the current target we're aiming for, and the employee cost savings. These work in the same way as the graphs. You can select the node and drill down to the associated Nodlins in which that node is present. So the employee cost reduction is noted here. Going back to the management review, these are also reactive, so you can change them from here. So if I change our cost saving from 15% to 20% as a target, our KPI should go down. And if you go and look at the cost reduction, you should see that's now set to 20. Now there are many node types that can be added to a graph. Here are some other examples. Here we have a node type that can query an external AI and produce a mind map. Nodes can be expanded to add more detail and images associated with a node to provide more clarity. Here is a simple example of the use of expressions in calculating a monthly mortgage payment, given the term, loan amount and interest rate. Viewing this through the Excalibur perspective presents it like an input form, and this is dynamic like all of the views. Communications through chat can become cumbersome if there are many people involved in a high-stress situation. In this example, we have a tech issue involving many groups and multiple impacts. In this case, we have structured conversation to identify investigations and impacts, and these are all summarised at the top level of the incident. The board view allows us to view impacts by severity and status. Requirements, features and bugs can be recorded in nodes and prioritised on the priority board. Here is another example of a structured communication using an evidence graph, where users can note justifications, rebuttals and claims. A cause-effect analysis can be applied to provide a more structured method in analysing the root cause of a failure. Here we have utilised a node to extract data from the US Federal Reserve and utilised in simple expressions. Performing financial forecasts, here we use the logistic growth curve to forecast revenue. Here we have some specialised AI requests to perform market analysis for a product and extract market share, features, pricing and target market detail. We created nodes with predefined prompts and extracted the detail in a structured fashion to create this graph. In this last example, we created a node that can query Wikipedia and extract images and expand on this detail, walking through the Wikipedia knowledge graph. You can visualise Nodlin like a spreadsheet, and spreadsheets brought huge productivity gains to organisations. It enables you to perform the same calculations, but unlike a spreadsheet, it works with structured data points, and it's like a single spreadsheet for data points across the whole organisation. Now, we have walked through a lot of example types of node and how Nodlin can be used to support real-time communication. You may be thinking that this is all very well and good, but it does not meet the needs of your organisation. However, the key point to make is that these are only examples. With the exception of the internal nodes, the workflow, note, expression and spreadsheet node types, all of the others are add-ins. You can adopt or develop your own using simple Python scripts and standardise the use across your organisation. So we have taken the multiple applications where you are responsible for the connections, the data transfer and the consistency, and utilised Nodlin as the framework where all the data points can be connected and the consistency maintained. A single interface provides familiarity and allows users to create their own context, which data points to work with, and the perspective, how to view the data as a graph, a board or an infographic. By employing Nodlin, you can reduce the volume of unstructured email and chat, save on the effort required to maintain consistency between lots of disparate systems, allow more structured decision making to be applied across the organisation, and provide more transparency and real-time insights across the business. Nodlin transforms everyday communication into a living, computable knowledge graph where ideas, data and decisions stay connected, reactive and explainable across teams and systems.